All right, welcome to the Unnamed Podcast. We don't have a podcast name yet, but my name is Kevin.
This is Brandon.
And we're gonna talk about stuff. What are we talking about today, Brandon?
Yeah, so what do you think about the differences in overall volume of a set variable when you're dealing with, I guess, like a beginner, intermediate, in between versus intermediate, advanced between? Like, since they're dealing with physically lighter weight and they can't go too heavy compared to like an advanced, would they need to do more volume in terms of sets versus an advanced lifter who can handle a lot more weight and not require as much sets to be able to stimulate more muscle growth because they're using higher weight?
Gotcha. So we're talking about volume today. So the difference in volume between a beginner, an intermediate lifter, and an advanced lifter, right? So those three different types of lifters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first we got to define what's a beginner lifter, an intermediate, and an advanced lifter. Because in my opinion, it doesn't even have to do with the amount of time that you've been lifting. It has to do with your lifting capabilities and knowledge, right? So beginners, they can either have both or one of the qualities. Either they are brand new to lifting so that they don't know things about lifting, or they are fairly physically out of shape, for lack of a better term. Yeah. So like they have a tough time moving the weight, controlling the weight. So that's how I'm going to define a lifter. Either they lack knowledge or the physical abilities to control weight and move it in a safe fashion. Whereas intermediate, they need to have at least a foundation of both, a foundation of knowledge and a foundation of physical ability. And then, of course, the advanced lifters, those are going to be the people who have both, who are pretty solid in both. So back to your question about volume. The beginning lifters, of course, we're both NASM certified personal trainers, so we know about the OTP
strength curve model.
Yeah, progression, right? The 5 levels, but our listeners may not. So the reason why I want to explain like the first level of the OTP model is the first level is all about stabilization, right? The ability to move weight and be stable, right? Be able to do a chest press, like a dumbbell chest press, and be able to coordinate the muscles and not have it like cave inward and like hit you in the face or something. I feel like that's happened to everyone.
Yeah.
So like to stabilize, and then the level after that to stabilize with heavier weights, and et cetera, et cetera. We don't have to talk about the model today. We can definitely get more in depth next time. But the reason why I brought it up was because in the very beginning stages, we need a lot of volume per set, right? 15 to 20 reps, I believe, with very low weight to practice on stability. And of course, this should be in a proprioceptively rich environment where it's very unstable. So talking about like using yoga balls, dumbbells, free weights, as opposed to the very stable environments like machines and cables. Cables are a bit more stable than your free weights. So beginners lifting very low weight in very unstable environments need those higher reps, 15 to 20 reps per set. But keep in mind, they are beginners, right? So their body isn't used to a lot of lifting. So they can't be doing like the 20, 25, 30, 35 sets that we do during our workouts. Brandon and I have hit some workouts together. Beginners can't and shouldn't rather be doing that much volume per workout, just because it's gonna shock the body. It's the body's gonna reject it. It's we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but I use the analogy like tearing down your house as opposed to just renovate your kitchen. Like go about your daily life, work on your kitchen, improve your living stance little by little, and when you're done with the kitchen, then you can renovate the living room, then you can renovate the bathroom, right? Instead of just tearing down the house and now you're homeless. Now you're homeless while you're trying to rebuild the entire house. Now you're not having fun, and now you kind of probably wish that you never tore your house down in the first place, right? That's the New Year's resolutioners who's like, oh, I'm gonna get at it. The first 3 workouts, they go balls to the wall, they go hard, and then at the end of the week, they are dead. They've shocked the body rejects it. Instead of just recovering, now it just has to get back to functioning, rather than getting to a place where you can build and become better. Now it's just like, oh my gosh, we tore everything down. We at least need running water. We at least need a roof over our head. So to get back to the original question, beginners lower total sets, but more reps per set. I think that answers your question, right? For the beginners?
Yeah, I meant like the people bridging the gap between beginner and intermediate, right?
So
they've already accustomed themselves to the volume and intensities as past the beginning New Year's resolution stage. It's like it's July at this point, right?
Okay.
They're used to it. They're pushing themselves hard, but it's like they can't, let's say they can only do 1 plate on each side on a bench versus advanced lifter who's doing 2.5 on each side. Like, would they then need to give their body the same stimulus by doing more sets of their 8 to 12 or 12 to 20, whatever they've been deemed effective for their stage in their bodybuilding experience, versus the advanced lifter who is also doing like 6 to 8, 8 to 12 with a higher weight? Would they need to do, for example, like 2 to 3 sets versus the beginner intermediate like 4 to 5 sets? Examples.
Yeah. Let's start off with the difference between like beginner to intermediate. So like you can kind of so like the progression from beginner to intermediate, right? It's not just like overnight, like, oh yes, today is the 3rd month that I've been a beginner. Then you wake up the next
graduated,
day. I am now intermediate. Nah, it's gradual, right? So once you feel that like your body can handle more volume, more exercises per workout, gradually increase it. So it's a gradual transition. But yeah, as you feel like you can handle more volume, and like you're able to really stabilize those light weights with those high volume, start increasing your weight, start lifting a little bit more, reducing your rep range maybe from 15 to 20, maybe down to like 12 to 15. So a little bit less volume, but more weight. And again, because your body has kind of gotten used to more volume, it's going to be able to handle the extra volume and recover a bit more between sets. And now instead of like feeling you got hit by a truck like after the first few workouts like you did when you were like a beginner, now like your body's like a little sore, but after a few days you can hit the gym again. That's about when you're an intermediate again, an intermediate lifter, and you can start to adjust accordingly. Now it's from an intermediate to advanced that I think is a little bit more tricky, because I think the thing that marks an advanced lifter is you start to understand your body and you start to understand what you want from the gym. Whereas, so like, I think the telltale like quality of an intermediate lifter is like you're learning about like what works for other people, you're learning the fundamentals, you're mastering the fundamentals, and you're learning what works for other people. But it's in the advanced stage that you start to learn what works for you. And that can be very different from what works for other people. And also the things you want from the gym can be very different. So like the things that I want from the gym are pretty different from the things that you want. I want to look good. If I'm strong, I'll take it. But like it's far from the first priority. And because that is not my first priority, strength, that'll change my workout. That'll change how I approach my workout design, how much volume I do, how much weight I choose, the exercises I choose, etc., just because my goals are different. So to get back to the original question of how does volume change, It depends. So like, there's a few factors. The first one that comes to mind is body type. Like me, I'm a hard gainer. It's really hard for me to put on weight. I know it sounds like boo-hoo me to a lot of listeners. Most people I talk to, that's what they say. Oh, boo-hoo. Must be a nice problem to have. It's the same problem as people who have a tough time putting off weight, just in the opposite direction. It's the same problem. I think
just escaping homeostasis is
it's improvement. You're just trying to change your body type. Exactly. Thanks. I like that. So for me, I try to limit my volume. I try not to go like 20, 25, 30 reps per set, just because like it just burns calories, right? Of course, that's not going to be a lot of calories per workout, but of course it adds up over time. Whereas a person trying to lose weight, go to town, do 15 reps, 20, 30. I've done a 50 rep drop set. You can do as many reps as you want. The more reps you burn, as more calories, adds up over time. Or if you are going for strength, low volume, right? Strength, you should be, in the 5 to 10 rep range ish?
I would say pure strength would be 3 to 6.
I think we're going to disagree there, because 3, I think you're still in the danger zone of like injuring yourself. I am
risk to reward.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I feel like a lot of our listeners, that's kind of crazy. Like, why don't you do 1 rep maxes? That's so common.
Yeah. No, that is not like practical for the vast majority of the population, right? Like if strength was all that you cared about, right? I would say like 3 to 6 would be your bread and butter, and then 1 for competition, if that's what you're focused on. But
I think if you're doing a competition, practice your 1 reps.
But
unless you're doing competitions,
the original question was really geared towards just muscle hypertrophy versus.
So for bodybuilders,
yeah, exactly.
You just want to get bigger,
right?
You want to look good.
Yeah. So like the difference in hypertrophy stimulus, would you need less sets to achieve the same hypertrophic stimulus with a heavier weight than with a lighter weight? If you're able to do
if you're doing more weight, your volume is going to go down.
Yeah, with the same amount of reps, though, is what I'm saying. Like the timeline of your ability, as you progress through getting bigger muscles, hopefully you're able to handle more weight. But because of that weight is against your frame, like your height, and everything, would be comparatively more, right? Your muscles get bigger, but systemically higher weight would fatigue you faster.
I don't think so.
Really?
Because you can handle more, right? Your body's your muscle gets bigger. You have more muscle. Your body gets more efficient at metabolizing energy. So like, as you progress, you can handle more weight, but also your endurance goes up. Your ability to metabolize food into energy will improve with like improved diet and as you get used to just eating better and exercising. So I don't think that there's like an overall general trend to like as you like go from intermediate to advanced that you need to do more volume or less volume, or like that weight has an impact on the volume you do. I think rather I would say start with your goal, and then that dictates the volume you do, like the reps per set and the reps per and the sets per workout.
Right.
And then you choose weight according to that. So to me, the choice tree, what's that called? Or it's like a flow chart. The flow chart is you start off with your goal. So hypertrophy, for example, start off with your goal. If you want hypertrophy, you want a decent amount of volume, right? Not too little, not too much. Too much would be like the cardio range.
Yeah. I'm more so asking about like the minimum effective volume, right?
For hypertrophy?
Yeah, for hypertrophy.
So like the reps per set, I would say like 8 to 15 reps per set, and then the sets per workout depends on the muscle. The muscle, so like biceps.
Right. But I mean like the same variables, like same reps, same muscle group. Just the only variable would be sets and the weight, I guess. But just a given that the weight be increased if you're doing, if you're advanced. Okay, right. So we're talking about minimum effective volume. So to elicit the same muscle building stimulus, say for example, a person who can only lift 100 pounds would have to do more sets of the same repetitions to elicit change from his body. Whereas a person who can lift 300 pounds to elicit change, their minimum effective volume would, let's say, be 2 sets of the same reps, like 8 reps or whatever. Do you think that phenomenon is a thing? To where because you're using heavier weight, you would need less sets to elicit muscle growth?
Well, so with muscle growth, the main driver of muscle growth is creating micro tears, right, in the muscles, right? And then when the body goes to repair the tiny tears in the muscle fiber itself, it grows them back bigger.
Yep.
So to me, there's other factors at play, like the quality, your rep range. Are you in the effective rep range? Because there's the functional rep range, the effective rep range. There's a lot of different types of rep range, like how far like your joint can extend and contract versus like what percentage of that is like quality reps.
The motion range, not like rep count ranges.
Yeah, so there.
Got it.
There's a lot of factors at play here which will affect the muscle growth. But I think to more directly answer your question, as you go up in weight, you will be able to lift less. Well, okay, so they're inversely related. The more weight you lift, the less volume you can do. But so you're talking about like when an intermediate lifter is going from intermediate to advanced, they're going to be able to lift more weight. And so your question is, do they need to do more volume or less volume?
No, not do they need to, right? Like they could have the volume stay the same, and I'm sure they would still progress. But like, let's say an intermediate can like this. So, to stay where they're at, to not move, they would do 4 sets. But in order for their body to elicit change, they would need to do 1 more set, like 5 sets. Right? I know it's not as black and white as that, but yeah, right. So maintenance would be 4 sets, and
so you're talking about progressive overload. So like progressing in the sense that like if you keep doing 25-pound dumbbells on bicep curls, 4 sets once a week, every week, you should do the same thing every week, you're not going to progress, right? So you're talking about progressive overload.
No, like not. No.
We're gonna have to cut all this.
Yeah, just it's like comparison between. Okay. Oh man, what's an example that can. All right, so I do. Let's say I do in 1 week. I do 20 sets of 135 on the bench press. And that is just enough to tell my body that I need to grow muscle. Right? Same rep range, right? Whereas someone more advanced can do 8 sets of 315, and their body would still, and their body would, oh fuck.
This is a family-friendly podcast, Brandon.
And their body would elicit change from only 8 sets. Whereas if I did 8 sets with 135, my body would not need to change or not elicit any change. It would just stay where it was.
So, okay.
Like, would just the weight affect that?
Okay, I think I disagree with your premise. I think that... Okay, so let's see if I can understand. So, like, to you, there's like a threshold that you need to meet or exceed it in order to elicit a growth response, right?
Sure,
if you don't
the minimal
get
effective volume, yeah.
minimal effective volume. I disagree with that exists. I
Okay.
think that any work creates progress because it's not just about... So, like, again, everything is complicated.
Yeah.
A lot
Oh,
of,
boy, everything
a
is
lot of
complicated.
my answers is just like... It's complicated. The answer is complicated. And I think this is one of those situations where it's like there isn't one mode of progression. It's not just like, oh, you did this one thing, check it off the checklist, now you're going to progress. It's like, so if that person who does the 135 on bench press, whatever, even if they did that same thing, same rep range, same weight, but if they did that like once, twice a week for like a year, they would progress. They would chisel their muscle density would improve, their strength would improve. Mostly their mechanics, their mastery of the motion would improve. Like my muscle connection to the chest would improve. Was it like Bruce Lee's like, I don't fear the man who's practiced 1,000 kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So I think, you could do the same thing over and over and over as long as you're like engaged and you're thinking about what you're doing, you're going to improve. But if you're just going on autopilot doing the same thing over and over, you're not going to improve. But like if you're like trying to actually improve, you're going to improve. And like that consistency, you're going to improve. So
I see. So with more volume, would the rate of muscle growth increase? Because I know that recent meta-analysis.
I think volume is so underrated. People focus so much on like weight. The more weight, the bigger you're going to get. And that's true to an extent. But if it's not quality reps that you're getting with heavy freaking weight, like you're doing cheating reps for everything, it's not going to be efficient growth. You're probably going to progress, but it's not going to be efficient.
Right.
It's not going to be optimal. Muscle growth is purely weight times volume. If you improve volume, you're going to create muscle. If you increase weight, you're going to increase muscle. So they're both important. You just have to find your sweet spot. You got to balance volume and weight.
So would you say progressive overload is necessary?
Yeah.
In terms of just volume and weight? Well, I mean, varying degrees, right? But
I think necessary is the wrong word. I think the right word is inevitable. If you make progression, you're going to increase your weight. You're going to improve your volume. Just because, like, if you do the work, you're going to improve. Again, as long as you're engaged. You're not just like, oh, I saw this on TikTok, I'll do this workout. I think this is what they did, but like they're just like trying to copy someone. They don't understand why they're doing those motions. They don't understand how to do the motions, and they end up just going through the motions.
What do you think about, this is kind of branching off, but what do you think about progressing through mesocycles purely by increasing volume? Like, I would do 4 sets of chest the first week of this mesocycle, and the last week I would do 16 sets.
Yeah, sounds good.
And the weight and the reps stay the same?
Yeah, you're going to improve. You're definitely going to improve your endurance.
Purely talking from like a hypertrophy standpoint.
Oh, let's see. purely from a hypertrophy standpoint, this kind of goes back to my issue with pre-planned out programs. So like this program, it sounds like you've already planned out 3 months in advance. Whereas like for my own workouts, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling in 3 months. I don't know what my goals are going to be in 3 months. Things change. And your body might progress faster than the program does, or it might progress slower than the program might call for or assume that you do. So yeah, I think it just goes to my opinion of just those types of programs as a whole in general, because they assume that everyone progresses the same, and they don't. You know, and it's not just a matter of like, oh, you're a different person from me, you're different physique, but like there's so many factors at play that it's not just like if you do 4 reps this week or 4 sets this week, that means you'll be able to do 6 sets the next week.
Right.
Like, they're mostly guidelines. So to me, that sounds exactly like, you ever hear those like couch to marathon programs?
No.
So there's a lot of programs where it's just like, you take someone who's like never run before, but like say they have the goal of running a marathon or like a half marathon. So there's programs that's like, all right, day 1, you're gonna run half a mile. Day 2, you're gonna rest. Day 3, you're gonna run a mile. Day 4, you're gonna rest. Day 5, you're gonna run a mile and a half. The next day, another mile and a half. The next 2 days, you rest, whatever. And then it progresses, and it's like, oh yeah. And then by day 30, you can run 10 miles now. Like if you follow this program. For those, I could see as being actually pretty effective, because as far as running, and so like I do have a background in running, if you didn't know, Brandon.
Right.
I was varsity cross country and track my freshman and sophomore years. So like a lot of it is mental. So it's actually just a slow progressive overload for training your mind. And the mind is much more pliable. It's much more flexible than like your physical capabilities. Like with the gym. Most people's minds, I don't know. I think they're about as pliable as each other's. I think so. Like everyone can learn. Everyone can improve mentally more uniformly than like one person can improve in the gym compared to like another. You know.
Okay. Same age. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even then. Like take me example. For example, I have very poor mind muscle connection to my back. So like I can't see it. I'm very visual. I can't feel it. So like my progression with like say pull-ups. Like if I had a goal of like doing 20 pull-ups, my progression to that goal would be far slower than probably the average, or let alone like you who've got massive back. And have good connection to your back, you probably progress much faster. And it's not even that like you're bigger than me. I mean, our backs are pretty comparable. But like it's the mental side. Also, I weigh a lot, and I weigh a lot less than you, so a pull-up should be easier for me. But again, there's a lot more factors at play that also affect that.
Interesting. Huh. I see.
Yeah, so back to my point about programs that are just, they're generic. They're made by a person who doesn't know you. They made this for the masses, and they made it as a general guideline. And those are fine. Those are good. But I think it's important to remember that they are just that. They're guidelines. You take the guideline, and then you customize it for yourself. You customize it based on how you're feeling, by your knowledge of yourself. Like me, I'm pretty motivated. So back to the couch to marathon example. Like I've got pretty strong mental fortitude. I'm pretty athletic. Just like by genetics, I feel like I could progress faster than like the program would typically say, as opposed to like Rachel. She's got a lot of strengths. I love her to death, but maybe it might take her. Okay, we're gonna cut that.
I'm a couch. Whereas you were doing varsity track, super marathons, whatever, fighting monsters. I was couch.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take you a little bit longer, and that's like as you're going through the progression, like acknowledge that, like have some like love for yourself, and just be like have that kindness to yourself. Be like, all right, like don't get down on yourself. Be like, oh, by day 15, I'm supposed to be running 4 miles, and I'm only running 2.5.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to remember that this is just a guideline, and just like go at your own pace. Do what you can, and yeah, customize it for yourself. So same thing with the gym. What was the original question?
My original question. Oh, we're so far from that.
Like progressive overload starting with 4 reps.
Just progressive overload with the variable just being volume versus progressive overload with the variable being just weight, and progressive overload with the variable being just mind muscle connection or intentionality or control. Or
I don't think you can separate the mind muscle connection from the other 2 factors.
From volume and weight, or intentionality and control?
Well, if you're trying to measure, like if you're trying to run an actual experiment, trying to isolate one of those factors.
Oh yeah, no way.
So
got it.
But we can compare volume
anecdotally,
versus strength.
right? Yeah.
Okay.
But okay,
Just as
yeah,
a
the
thought
first
experiment.
two, the first two was the main contingent point that anyone could take away, but the mind muscle connection was just theoretical.
Right. So like, yeah, if you just wanted to do the variable of volume for progressive overload, I guess you can. I feel like it'd be very inefficient. Just because, like, again, muscle growth is volume times weight. So do both. Like, improve on both. If you're only improving one.
I'm not saying, like, that people just pick one, but I'm saying, like, what would be
What's
the
more
important, more...
Porque no
like
los
unit
dos.
would
Do them
be...
both. Okay, fine. I'll answer your question.
Right. Like, if I wanted to schedule a progression or whatever, a week, like the next workout, would I do 1 more rep or add 5 more pounds? Which would benefit me better?
Okay, my real answer, which is not answering your question, is do both. One set, add the weight, and then the next set, add the volume. Do both.
Okay.
Get a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
Moderation. Like, get a little bit of everything. But fine, to answer your question, what's more important? I go with volume. Because it's safer,
Okay.
so the risk reward. So in my eyes, they're the same progression, but the volume is safer.
Yes.
So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. We everyone needs to do both and increase both. But like, I wanted to know your reasoning as to why you preach volume is so important, or like how maybe you were saying that other people were saying or is not putting as much importance on volume.
Mm-hmm.
At least now,
they emphasize weight. So yeah, I would emphasize volume over weight any day because it's safer. It's you're gonna probably get more quality reps with lower weight, and again that's the trade-off is with lower weight you get less micro tears, but you make up for that by doing more reps. So at the end of the day, like as one goes up, one goes down, but they're gonna both benefit you the same.
Yeah, there are a couple of studies where they observed that yes, micro tears in lighter weight is less tears per rep, but as long as you go to near complete failure, the amount of micro tears versus lower rep to failure with heavier weight is similar.
Yeah, exactly. Like the philosopher Don Mazzetti says.
Oh boy. Amen.
Failure ain't an option, it's a requirement. So yeah, just go to failure every set, no matter if it's heavyweight or lightweight. Just go to failure. Like, don't save yourself like, oh, I'm only gonna go to failure on my 4th set. Nah, after you warm up, go to failure every set.
So what do you define as failure? Like systemic failure, muscle failure, form failure, beyond failure? Like, what does that look like to you?
I mean, well, they're all failure, but
Right.
the one that I always stop at is, fuck, I always forget the name of it. What's the one where you stop having good form?
Form failure, I guess.
There's a better.
Yeah, there's definitely a better word for it.
We can cut out the dead sounds.
Right, yeah.
I want to think of it. Form failure.
Dial tone.
There's absolute failure.
Absolutely, yeah. That's like.
And then there's. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Absolute failure and.
Mechanical failure? No. No, that's.
It's like for cards. Fork. Oh, Clint would know.
Technical failure?
Technical failure.
Technical failure.
Technical failure. So, yeah, I always go to technical failure. Well, not always, but like 95% of the time.
Right. What I've observed from you is that you always hit technical failure, and on your last set, you go to absolute failure with sacrifice a little on form, and then you go a little beyond failure with partials.
Yeah, and drop sets too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I guess my progression like for an exercise is like set 1, really light, maybe like 12, 15 reps. Just get the form. Make sure you're engaged. The proper muscles are engaged. Make sure everything's good. Your muscles are warm, and you're feeling the burn where it should be. That's set 1. Set 2, a little bit more weight, a little bit more intensity. Maybe like 6 out of 10. But no, generally 15 reps. Set after that, starting to go pretty heavy, starting to go pretty hard. Intensity maybe like around 8. And then last set, if I'm doing like 4, I don't know. Go to technical failure, and then drop the weight, keep going, go to technical failure again, maybe drop the weight a second time, go to technical failure again, or instead of drop sets, maybe like do partials, like maybe just do the bottom half, or maybe just do the top half, or even just pulse in the middle. Mm-hmm. But like once you hit failure, there's other failures. So like in that example, I hit failure for like the entire rep, but then I can just do partials, and I can still just do a little bit of a pulse with the same weight, and I can keep going. Or you can drop down the weight, and keep going. So always go to failure is what I say, and then after you go to failure, there's more failures that you can hit and get more benefit from a singular set.
Mm-hmm. Right now you're hitting most of your muscle groups like this once a week. Would you change up the failure philosophy if you did twice a week, hitting major muscle groups? Or 3 times a week?
Let's see. So yeah, I'm hitting every muscle only once per week. And then of course it gets 6 days to recover. So yeah, I can obliterate a muscle, and that's fine, because in 6 days from now, it'll be fine again. But if I were to say, like, have a really heavy day on chest, like Monday, and then I hit it again Thursday for like a volume day, probably, yeah, not as much volume. Just because like in that scenario, it's the same amount of time I'm spending in the gym, but now I'm hitting each muscle twice as much. So that means I can only spend half as much time on each muscle.
Mm-hmm. But you would still go to failure and beyond every session.
Yeah. So like right now I'm hitting maybe like 25, 30 sets per chest workout. But if I hit chest twice this week, I would probably do like 15 to 20 sets over each workout. So it ends up being the same amount of sets over the week, but it's going to be less volume. And yeah, same failure. Everything else would probably stay the same.
Why?
Because, I don't know, I like going failure. I like going as hard as I can. So like, to me, like, I don't really have to worry about, oh, am I doing enough weight? Oh, am I doing enough volume? I go as hard as I can. And like, I do as much as I can. I kind of stop my workout when I'm tired.
Yeah.
So, by that definition, like, I am hitting my threshold and I am doing progressive overload because I couldn't do any more.
Right.
And when you do the most you can, your body's like, oh gosh, we got to do better. We barely got through that workout. We got to be stronger. We got to have more endurance. We got to be stronger. So that's what forces it to grow, be stronger. That's where my progressive overload comes from.
So would you be fully recovered in 3 days or even like 2 days or 1 day?
Hopefully. If I'm not, then I guess I'm not hitting that muscle.
So you just go by feeling, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying about like advanced lifters.
Right.
You start to understand your own body. You listen to it. You have to listen to it. If you don't listen to your body, you're gonna hurt yourself.
That's the number one thing I keep hearing from all these like advanced lifters that I've talked to.
Yeah, because okay, I can't believe I waited this long to make a music analogy. Because I'm sure they're gonna be frequent. So like the way I define a beginning, intermediate, and advanced musician, or like pianist, I guess in my case. For those who don't know, I'm a piano teacher too.
Pianist.
Don't gotta say it like that.
Yeah.
Like a beginner is learning the fundamentals. They're learning how to read sheet music. They're learning how to keep a steady rhythm. They're learning their quarter notes from half notes. Their scales. They're learning the basics. At intermediate, they've got the basics, and things kind of just get a little bit more complicated. They learn the difference between legato and staccato, which is like smooth and connected versus like popcorn, like pop, 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 individualized. You know, you're a pianist too.
Yeah. I'm also a pianist.
So like at the intermediate level, it just gets a little bit more complicated. But their fundamentals are there. And then at the advanced level, they know the basics. They've got experience with a lot of genres, but they're able to think for themselves. They're able to incorporate feeling into it, their feeling, their own personal feeling. They're able to inflect differently than another person. So basically it gets individualized at the advanced level. They're learning, oh, I wouldn't slow down there, I would speed up. Or I would shape it slightly different. You slow down about 20%, I would slow down 30%. And that's just the individuality, the individual pianist would do. And they would decide what's best for them. So same thing with a lifter. Like for me, if I had the goal of like, oh, I want to bench press 315. I currently can't do that. I've never done that. But if tomorrow I decided that I wanted to progress my way to there, I would have to listen to my body when my shoulders ache because they're kind of screwed up. I would have to listen to them. I'd probably progress differently than maybe say you would, or most people. They would probably progress with a lot of low reps. Like they would do a lot of sets like at lighter weights with like 185, 225 with lower reps, maybe like the 8 to 10 rep range, do lower reps. But with me, like if I would probably stick to what I've always done, which is like rep range of like 12 to 15, and then just like 1 week, like let's see, I could probably bench for 15 reps. I don't know. I could probably bench 2 plates. Let's assume I can.
Okay.
Let's be generous, because I don't think I can right now. Because I'm a little weak boy right now. He usually goes out at 2 o'clock.
Hmm.
Oh, it's 2:30. Go out soon, little boy. Okay, we got that. But I'd probably progress like doing 215 for 15 reps one week, and then the next week, I don't know, 235 for 15 reps, and then the week after that, 245 for 15 reps. But I would keep my volume because to me, volume is safety. If I can do 15 reps, it probably means I'm not going to hurt myself.
Okay.
As opposed to like, if I struggle for 1 rep, I don't know if that's going to be the rep that screws up my shoulder. But like, if I can do 14 reps, it's unlikely that the 15th rep is going to be the one that hurts my shoulder, you know?
Comparatively, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I would probably keep my volume really high, and then maybe like once I get to like 265 for 15 reps, then I could go down to like 275 for 12 reps, 285 for 10 reps, and maybe I would scale down from there. But that progression is not a common one. I don't think anyone else would do that.
Yeah, because those jumps in weight for the reps is really generous, because you have to jump up in smaller increments if you're doing higher reps.
What?
Yeah. So like the amount of weight, like the 1 rep max calculators and all that, 2 rep max, 8 rep max, or whatever.
Which I think are dumb for the record. I will go on record saying those charts are dumb. I've never used them. Because
that's fine. Okay, yeah. Say your piece.
No, because so many people love those charts because again, they're made by math and I love math. Yes. But they don't take into the account grit and just like sheer force of will. And also like assuming that, so if you're like, I did 225 for 10 reps, that means that next week I can do, so that if I can do that much, that means that I can also do 265 for 4 reps or whatever the chart says. I don't think that's true because day to day things change.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like a person who over relies on that might be like, so now I can do 265 for 4, and then that next week when they go for 265 for 4 reps, they get to that 3rd rep and they're like, according to the chart, I can do 1 more. They go for it, they trust the chart more than their own body.
I see.
And they hurt themselves.
Yeah. In terms of like how you utilize that chart, it's all about guidelines.
Exactly.
Versus
guidelines.
like, or not versus, but same thing as like a BMR calculator or whatever. All these numbers, because we're organic. Fractals versus binary. Yeah. Okay, yeah. In terms of that, like if you look at the numbers for a 1 rep max calculator and go all the way down, the numbers aren't linear to the weight in relation to the number of reps. So like a 5 pound increase for a 5 rep max would be not equal in relation to a 10, holy shit, hold on. A 5 pound rep increase, or
we should have pulled up a chart.
Yeah. Okay, a 5 pound increase for a 10 rep max is not the same as doing 10 pound increase for 5 rep max.
Is this going back to me saying like, I would just add 5 pounds like week by week and still keep doing 15 reps? Is this what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Like that it would be way harder than I'm making it sound?
And are you still going to failure every time? Assumed, right? Would that be your 15 rep max?
So
if you're trying to go for 350, well, yeah.
Again,
that's in terms of goals.
You're planning way too much. So
I'm planning too much.
So if I listen to my body, I do what I feel. I'm feeling good today. I'm gonna do 245 or whatever, and then the next week be like on paper I should be able to do more, but maybe that coming Monday I'm like, I feel terrible, I had some junk food the day before, I'm not hydrated, The moon phase is out of whack. I lift better under the crescent moon.
My crystals weren't charged last night.
Yeah, like things could be off. So like you gotta listen to your body. You gotta do what you do. You lift as much as you can. And so like because I lifted as much as I could last week, that will help me this week. But if I can't lift as much, that's fine. I'll try again next week. Like it's about the big picture, like setting a goal. Just like I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna lift hard for 3 months, and if I get there in 3 months, cool. If it takes longer, okay. If I got there shorter, okay. It's just like just do as much as you can today. That I think that explains my broader philosophy for kind of like life. Just like people plan so much. I'm a planner too. I mean I'm guilty of this as well, but like this is kind of like how I live my life with no regret. And I tell this to people, like I have zero regrets, because like no matter what decision I make, how I live my life day to day, like I always do my best, and I make decisions with the best knowledge I had at the time. So if you made the best decision you could with all the knowledge you had that at the time, there's no more you can ask. Like you can't be like, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I should have invested in Bitcoin. Like you can't say, oh, I should have done that. You're just beating yourself up for something you have no control over.
Yeah.
Now, if you look back and be like, oh, I was a screw up in high school, like I didn't study enough, then yeah, that could be a regret because you didn't try your best. But as long as you try your best and make decisions like to the best of your ability, you have nothing to regret. Same thing with the gym. Like as long as you eat well, sleep well, like do the things that you know are good for you and go hard in the gym, you're going to progress. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. So like it's just creating a bunch of habits and a lot of little things that add up, and like your goal will be inevitable. It's not about, oh, I got to do this, and it's a checklist that I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and that's what's going to achieve my goal. No, you create a system where the goal is inevitable. Mm. So, like, if I eat well, sleep well, don't drink, avoid soda, whatever, and, like, I keep lifting heavier and heavier weight, eventually I'll probably hit 315. Do you believe in like biological limits? Like, do you think I could ever bench press 405?
Oh, like genetic limits?
Yeah.
Sure, fuzzy, but that's min-max territory, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So that's the only consideration that that I was talking about. So like, the only thing that could prevent me from like bench pressing whatever 305 is that like I find out that I have like a torn ligament in my shoulder, or like I'm genetically like whatever, and that was never in the cards. Like my ceiling was never that high. That's the only thing that could prevent it. So, just because like if you keep progressing, you'll eventually hit your goal.
Yeah. Huh. Well, as long as it's within reason, like 405 is a stretch, but you never really know your limits unless you test them.
Exactly.
Right? But I'm confident in saying that I will never hit 495 of bench or squat. So...
yeah. So there is a limit.
Yeah, it's just a gray area, right?
Yeah. But then there's also like, if you want to like take steroids, then yeah, I could see lifting.
Right, but that's not genetic limit anymore. It's yeah.
Let's see. Would you describe yourself as an intermediate or advanced lifter?
Intermediate for sure.
Really? How long have you been lifting?
Consistently 2 years.
Only 2. Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been a personal trainer?
2.
Oh, okay.
Wait, hold on.
You've been a trainer as long as you've been training. So you started training people like right after you just started lifting yourself?
I think I was no. I started lifting like back in 8th grade. I was just never consistent for a while, right?
So
my longest stint would be like 6 to 9 months. Can't really remember. And then like I would take off like maybe 3 months unintentionally or what have you. Life excuses, right? But yeah, my streak now for without skipping anything has been 2 years. At least. My memory isn't the best, but yeah, I've been consistent ever since I've started personal training is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting that you would still only describe yourself as an intermediate lifter, because I feel like a lot of lifters after 2 years would be like, I'm advanced.
Well,
I know a lot.
Well, the guidelines for the numbers, I know you hate charts, but it doesn't really suggest. It suggests that I'm just hitting intermediate numbers strength-wise. And I haven't been going for strength. I've just been going for size. And I feel like my progress overall has been slower than the average TikToker.
So you got these numbers from like bodybuilding charts and like
sure, like
these
the
are
first thing,
lifters.
yeah, like all the, beginner,
Numbers.
intermediate, advanced numbers or whatever. It's totally scientific.
Well, I mean, you got to draw a line somewhere. I guess like in competition settings.
Right.
But my question was more so like knowledge-wise. Like, would you describe yourself as an intermediate or advanced lifter knowledge-wise?
I feel deep in the Dunning-Kruger Valley. I would say intermediate, starting to claw my way up that curve.
Okay. Like knowing you, the limited time we've known each other, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
How long have we known each other? It's been like 2 months?
November, yeah, I think.
Yep, 2 months.
Yeah. About when Crunch kicked me out.
Oh, jeez. Let's not talk about that here.
Okay, yeah. 2 months. 2 months.
Yeah. All right, so we're approaching the hour mark. Any last things you want to talk about?
Nothing that wouldn't be a TikTok video for 60 seconds.
I mean, we go for it. Any 60-second questions?
How much water should someone drink in a day?
3/4 to 1 gallon. 3/4 of a gallon to a gallon.
It doesn't matter the size, weight of an individual.
Yeah, like a smaller person, like by weight, would drink less than like a bigger person.
But I agree, minimum 3/4.
I just say like, drink water until your urine is almost clear. Like it should be a pale yellow, like just a little bit of yellow, and then that's perfect because that means you're hydrated.
Yeah.
So like the amount doesn't matter so much as like how hydrated you are. It also depends. So like it doesn't just depend on how big you are. It depends on, did you eat a bunch of salty food? Did you eat a bunch of watermelon? There's a lot of water in watermelon. There's a lot of water in a lot of fruits and vegetables. That'll affect it as well. But it's just, or like, did you just do a lot of yard work in the sun? Or were you just like sunbathing at the beach? All those things are going to affect the amount of water that you need. So you just stay hydrated.
Yeah, so is the color of the urine a good metric for if you've consumed like a giant Subway sandwich and you have so much sodium in you? Or like, yeah, let's say you drink a whole gallon of water a day, and then the day before when you're eating fine, normal, urine's pale, and then the next day you drink a gallon and you have a high sodium meal. Would that affect the color of your urine? Would that be a good metric? Or I guess that would just affect the level of dehydration if it was enough to tip you over the edge.
So,
right?
Well, okay, so water metabolism, like water goes through your system super fast, like minutes.
Yeah.
As opposed to like food, which takes hours, right? So, like sodium can be washed out of the body in under an hour. Don't quote me on this. I haven't checked the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So like if you have a very sodium rich meal, which you shouldn't have often, but when you do, it's inevitable. Just drink a bunch of water. If it's very colored, if it's very yellow, or God forbid, and like darker, then just keep drinking water. Just drink water until it's pale again. So, this is just another one of those situations where I'm just like, there's no general answer. It's just drink until you're hydrated. Like, the reason why people say like, oh, drink 8 glasses a day, which, by the way, is not true. That's old advice.
It's only half a gallon, yeah.
Yeah, that's
what the heck is a
advice.
glass? Yeah.
Well, 8 ounces, I think.
Right. Well, yeah, traditionally, but everyone,
64 ounces.
Everyone doesn't know that.
But well, that's just like people also saying like, oh, don't have more than 2 eggs in a day. That's also outdated
What
advice.
in the world? I've never heard that before.
It's because of the cholesterol content.
Oh boy.
Oh gosh.
I'd be long dead.
Gosh.
Inhaling my eggs.
That's a subject for another podcast. Because I will talk about that for a while. My goodness. But yeah, this is just another situation where it's just like the people have tried to quantify. Oh, if you weigh this much. Oh, if you are this age and this body type and you're this active, drink this much water. Like, again, they're just guidelines. Whereas I just think the all-encompassing, the only piece of advice you need is be hydrated. If you're and the way to check if you're hydrated is to check your urine color.
Yep.
So if you're hydrated, congratulations, you drank enough water. Good job.
This we'll have to talk about this later, but there's like this conversation about the relationship to hydration with how much water you've had and how many electrolytes are in your system, or how much. And that quote unquote balance to be hydrated. Because apparently, if you don't have enough electrolytes in your system, you can dehydrate yourself by drinking too much water to dilute the electrolytes in your system.
Mm-hmm. What are my thoughts on that?
Not now.
Oh. I think it would be hard. I think it would be difficult to drink enough water to wash out enough electrolytes.
I think the more common problem is not having enough electrolytes versus a regular amount of water.
Yeah, people usually have too much electrolytes in their system and not enough water. That's what you're saying, right?
No.
Oh.
There's actually a lot of people that have so little sodium in their body that they suffer.
They need to season their food better.
I agree. There's a certain demographic.
Add salt to your food, listeners, friends. Please salt your food. It's
if you're getting
the most important spice.
Random headaches, salt your food and drink more water.
Yes, salt your food. If you're worried about like hypertension, just drink more water. Like your body regulates its own electrolytes. Just salt your food. You'll have enough electrolytes, I think.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's good talking to you. All right. Sounds good. I will catch you later, Brandon.
All right. See you, man.